Can you hear me now?
My name is David Dangler. I'm a representative of Vectorworks. Some of you know that, some of you don't. Quick plug, Vectorworks is a CAD/BIM software package, direct competitor with all of the Autodesk products. So with that said though, I'm going to be the moderator for this first session of 3. And our first speaker is going to be Cesar Escalante. He is the buildingSMART Design Technology Manager at HOK. And he's going to be talking about the evolving future of immersive technologies.
One, two, three. Do you hear me well? All right, welcome everybody. My name is, again, Cesar Escalante. I'm Design Technology Manager for HOK, and I am the person who supports the West Coast, San Francisco and Seattle offices. And I'm here to talk about, not so much about architecture per se, but talk about what are the recent trends of our emerging technologies and how HOK is embracing something very important in our time, and that's change. And change is everywhere, and we can see it by the spike of technology that's made available to us nowadays. On the screen you see a survey of the 2017 industry emerging technology. And all these startups and technology are coming to us like a fire hose. And our clients are expecting us to be on top of everything, on top of be the expert industry matters.
I can't hear you. Do you have the microphone?
Yes, 1, 2, 3.
That's better.
All right. Our clients are expecting us to be experts and subject matter experts in all this type of technology, and moreover, they are expecting us to become to prepare our projects with the kind of technology that is of the future. And so there's this pressing need of keep always on top of what's coming up. This is the Gardner curve. I don't know if you've seen it before, but this basically is a curve that is put together by researchers and subject matter experts in the industry about emerging technologies and their expected maturity and plateau of productivity over time. And there's a lot of new technology coming up. A lot of them are pretty awesome. Like you see at the start of this curve, there's the smart dust, which what I understand is this nanotechnology cloud of nanoparticles that can flood your brain and start tracking your neurons. But that's not the kind of things that we're actually looking at. We're actually focused on 4 specific areas. And I'm going to talk about these 4 elements and how HOK is actually embracing these technologies and how we're getting prepared for those. So let's talk about virtual reality. And this is nothing new. I mean, it started with this type of representation panoramic that are currently available if you use the Autodesk products. And these type of representations are now the standards in the presentation of our schematic design and design development. And it is immersive. You can connect this to VR, and it actually helps the client decide and make decisions quickly about finishes, about process of construction, about usage. And this is Kaiser Redwood City, which was recently presented to the client. And the beauty of this is that you can just share this via a link, and the client can also share it internally. And this is changing the nature in which we interact with our clients. This is a confidential project, but I just took this screen to highlight a very important change. On the screen you see there's on the table $100,000 worth of 3D printing and about $10,000 worth of color printing on the walls. And this was for the CEO approval of a very important project in Silicon Valley. And the CEO, at a very limited time, just inspect the models and maybe for 5 minutes. And then spend the next 45 minutes just in the virtual environment we had created for him. And that was a wake-up call for us. Not only the client was able to make decisions about what was important for him in the project, but it also highlighted where we need to focus our efforts. And so virtual reality has become a natural part of our project presentation. This is another example. This is University of Texas in Houston. The client was trying to understand how the graphics layout of a temporary exhibition was going to be perceived prior to construction. And David Ivey in our Chicago office helped put together this virtual experience where the client was able not only to interact with the space, but also perceive how the installation was going to actually work prior to construction. This product is called Iris VR, and you're able to actually make screen captures and share them via email. We're also starting to use this technology for interactions with the agencies. This is the City of San Francisco planning meeting, one of our projects in San Francisco, where the city was really concerned about the massing of a building creating a really narrow field view of an avenue. And so in order to prove the city that that wasn't the case, we brought VR. And it's also changing the nature of how we do coordination meetings. This is a Stanford, a typical design coordination meeting, where we typically bring the project managers and architects and discuss it via VR. Now, virtual reality is important, but also another important aspect is reality capture. And we started to test this technology. This is Matterport. I don't know if you heard about that. It's a technology that captures existing conditions based on photogrammetry and enable you to see this dollhouse and construct automatically the 3D geometry and make 3D faces out of that. And not only that, it also enables you to make measurements, tag elements, and really it's a way to capture and replace photography in the field. Our interior group uses this technology to capture existing conditions and create new projects. We're also encouraging our members, our staff members, to participate in things like AEC Hackathon. But not only we just don't want to wait and sit for the industry to mature and create new tools for us. We want to be part of the process. This is the AEC Hackathon in Stuttgart. Carlos de la Barrera in our London office created this tool that actually tracks the experience of virtual reality from multiple users and have a visual survey of where people initially look at. And so by looking how people experience a virtual project, we really measure the success of our experience and really provide the feedback needed for our designers to either change or calibrate the way the space is experienced. And this is something I came across. VR is also changing the way we learn. The lowest store not only sells hardware anymore, they also providing virtual learning centers. On the right side, on the picture on the right, is what the real instruction is happening. The one in the middle, it's a virtual mock-up of what the installation look like. And people are starting to learn using VR using this method. I also attended the augmented reality conferences earlier last month, and one of the things that struck me is this playground where multiple users were connected wirelessly and experienced spaces virtually. Everyone in the virtual space had an avatar, and we were able not only to interact between each other using microphones, but we were also able to experience different experiences. If suddenly we decided to move to a different place, we could all agree to experience a different room and think about how it's going to change the way we do coordination. And in fact, I experienced that a couple of months ago where State of VR was a completely virtual conference attended only by avatars connected around the world. So who knows, maybe this conference will be in the future a virtual conference, and each of us will be attending this way. The next trend I want to suggest, we're keeping a loop, is augmented reality. And I really got my first inspiration by attending art exhibit in Manhattan put together by Studio Drift. This is the Concrete Storm exhibit. It's an exhibit that was mixed reality. The bottom part of this column is a solid concrete in our world. And the upper part, the failing columns, were actually only experienced in VR. And so we're starting to see how this start translating into architecture and sculpture and other fields. And we also want to be ahead of the game by influencing the industry and partnering with developers like Euphoria to start creating software. This is an application made by our Houston office using Euphoria and Unity that it is 3 models combined into a single application with multiple trackers that enable us to recreate and create animations of a project using VR. We have the ability to assign materials, define the level of detail, tag, and create some representation, some studies, all using Unity. Not only we have single buildings, but we can experience multiple projects at a time. And the interface is customized to our requirements. On the slide, you see 2 different projects put together side by side, and we were able to display it. We also started to think about how we can influence the industry by partnering with developers. This is our director of planning, and we have already established a partnership relationship with Meta Glasses to start looking at how AR is going to influence the way we do business. And this is a prototype that we're starting to look at. How's going to be the office of the future? With Meta Glasses, we have this ability to have virtual displays surrounding us and scale up and down the screens that we want to work on. And so does that mean the future is placed without hardware? Because technically, all you need is your computer and your eyes with all your devices connected there. And what does that mean to our client? How do we start shaping and influence how the space is created? And it also, the ramification also extends to construction. And we were given a tour of the Valero smart helmet, probably you've seen it before, which actually overlay the construction lines of services on the field with the ability to selectively turn on and off layers. Another thing we keep in attention, and maybe we haven't done enough, is this notion of machine learning. And certainly, the wake-up call was in 2011, I believe, when Watson beat humans in Jeopardy. I mean, it was really amazing how a computer could contextualize responses based on the data set. And it did it by a big time. If you have an iPhone already, you can search photos by keywords. This is a screenshot of my cell phone looking for oak trees. And yes, I get on top of trees sometimes. And it was amazing that our technology, our mobile technology, is able to recognize patterns. Sometimes it does it well, like this. It identifies the species as well. Sometimes not so much. Like, here you couldn't differentiate between fried chicken and Labrador puppies. But it's a big step anyway. You're probably familiar with this screen. This is generative design office presented by Autodesk. And it was presented at AU last year, and it was also a reminder that generative design is up on us as well. And we started to put in place research projects to look how generative design is starting to influence our design process. This is Project Fractal, which enables you to assign parameters on the cloud. This is shareable and accessible from any point as long as you have internet. And it's a way to measure the weight of different variables and obtain instant results. So how the future might look like on AR. It's pretty promising. This is actually a new product that was on the market that will display AR representation on your dashboard and control the variables around you. It's an example of how this is not only interacting and guiding you, this is actually interacting with other devices around you, and it's starting to present this notion of connectivity between devices, all with the purpose of serving us and serve the experiences that we have, both as in interior spaces and in exterior spaces. Which connects us to my next core topic, and that's the Internet of Things. This is JELP, and 3-4 years ago, if you connect JELP with our Google Maps, it actually started to provide information about the urban environment and give you feedback about where to go, where are the best restaurants. This technology is evolving so quickly that very soon all our devices and everything that we know inside, anything that has a computer chip, very soon is going to start talking to each other, and all with the aim of improve our experience of space. Air handling units, fans, smoke detectors, fire alarm panels, thermostats. All of these devices are producing tons of data. And so how are we going to start sorting out this information that comes at us like a fire hose? And certainly machine learning is going to be a big part of that, as well as the ability to connect all the information via the cloud. I don't know if you're a fan of Black Mirror, but this is one of the chapters, season 2, available on Netflix. And actually this was a device similar to Alexa, where one of the users actually made a copy of the brain and put it into Alexa device who control and operate all the devices in the house. And we might not be that far from a utopia like that. Trimble is ahead of the game as well by already providing solutions on the facility management side. These, for example, tracks the assets and the facility requirements from all the assets of a building. And it provides information about when it was installed, when it was serviced, when is due. And not only that, it also instructs users on how to properly assemble and disassemble as well. And so if we extended these to a larger urban environment, we're going to start seeing how our environment and our context is speaking back to us, all with the goal of enhancing our experience and improve how we experience a place. This is a concept study of a forthcoming vision on how the Internet of Things is not going to just influence our internal space, but also the urban space. And I'm going to wrap up with these 4 different technologies, which we have, we're staying aware of, are only made possible because of the infinite computer already available on the cloud. Big data is the next big thing. The notion of storage, having a storage local in your computer is becoming obsolete. I see a future where we're not going to need thumb drives. All the data is going to be available on the cloud, not only our personal data, but data of our environment, about our devices, about our connected technology. And it's thanks to the big data that we're able to feed all that information across generative design. It's big data was enabling reality capture, and that was going to influence what's the direction of the fabrication in the place. And nothing of this makes sense unless we go back and remember, what are we here for? I mean, we're here to define a place, whether that place is virtual, whether that place is real, whether that place is a requirement for our client. It is that vision of creating spaces that are that respond to our client needs, what is pushing us to go to ride the next wave of technology.
Thank you, Cesar. Questions? Go ahead.
You talk about inherent vulnerabilities with IoT and what you think the designer's, architectural designer or place designer's responsibility is in managing that?
I think one of the biggest challenges is where's the data going, and how is that data? Where is that data? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. I think a lot of these technologies are posing ethical questions, like how is the technology managed, how is distributed, and who are the responsible to setting the requirements for controlling all these things. And I think there's still a lot of work to be done to put in place those kind of safeguards. In the case of VR, for example, we're defining we're creating all these virtual spaces that we don't know how they're going to get policed over time. So I would say that's the biggest challenge. Look at that. 1, 2, 3.
Our company is kind of at the beginning of the stage of VR. The problem of the teamwork right now is that we cannot really see what the guy in the goggle sees. Because when you wear the goggle, the experience is fantastic, but when you are outside looking at the screen, it looks choppy and it looks terrible. How would we do the collaboration that you've been experienced, that you show on the screen earlier.
Yes. So I showed a slide of multi-experience environment, the last augmented reality show.
That really provides a good option for interacting in virtual space with multiple people, but that really requires a big space. I mean, that place was 2,000 square foot, something that we can't afford, much less in San Francisco, where I come from. So I think that to move away from the isolated nature of VR, AR provides the biggest opportunity. By having multiple people looking at a model at the center of a table, then you're able to look at the same space and have a very informed discussion about what is important for the client and for the coordination. And so while we don't currently have multiple experience AR at HOK, we're certainly keeping an eye on as the direction we want to head.